Paul gets here, we don't want to get into the budget discussion, to see if there are any council concerns. Andy, nice tie. My concern is that tie.
Well, considering I just had my 30th,
30th.
it was really a wonderful time. Tommy, you may have been approached, I think Paul, you may have too, also about what needs to happen for the slide. I talked to Bobby Howley yesterday. I think Bobby's taking
What?
the slide on Ocean View Avenue. That's going in the City Beach area.
Yeah, and I think what we want to do is get on our docket, like the very next time we vote, which is the 13th. If we wait much longer than that, he won't have it open for the summer season like he wants to and do all the things he's supposed to. So I think it's, it's in the system someplace. Will you try? Okay.
I think and that's all I had. I talked to Bobby. I know that he's become a lobbyist as of late.
I know, he called.
I talked to Paul too.
You can't ever get him on the phone. He told me.
But at least if we can move that forward,
Yes.
they have a lot invested in it. It'd be pretty neat. That's all I have right now, other than budget changes.
Really? This is great.
Is the Norfolk Collaboratory open to all of the citizens or just the people that read about it on all daily? Is that a city project?
Yes, it's a combination of, and I mentioned something to council at the beginning of the year, a combination between the DNC, the city, and Festivents. You met John Martin back at the retreat.
Right, yeah.
And one piece of it is just a website where people can input information about what they think about the city and things that we can do to move forward. So it's open to everyone, yes.
Oh, okay, so, because I know they were advertising
Yeah, it's up
an
in the
event,
morning,
it's,
right?
right.
Yes.
What is that?
Yes, that is John Martin will be, again, providing the same presentation that he provided to council back in September.
Did it
What's-
HRT too, maybe I ought to give it.
With some additional feedback that he's collected over the last 6 months.
Do you know what the agenda is? I mean, how the thing, are
John-
you going to start it or what are you going to?
John will come out and begin his generations discussion, and it'll be much like what you've seen.
How long
in
is
Is it
it
the MacArthur?
Yes, it's at MacArthur tomorrow morning.
And how long is it supposed to last?
I believe
Till about 10,
till 10, yes.
so no more than an hour.
Right, Tommy?
Yeah, just down the road, maybe sometime this summer, if council could have a presentation about how RFPs, procurement goes out for the city, how the selection process works, how the new state rules with low bid, how all of that works. There's been a lot of questions from constituents about contractors and how they're hired in the city and not understanding why it goes low bid. I think it would be a good presentation for us to just be educated on how that goes. I had a good question last night about when we hire a contractor through the bidding process and it's a low bid and they end up bidding so low to get the project, but then they can't complete it. When the city has to go back out and rebid that, what is that process? Does it have to go back through, or can you now pick a different contractor? So I'd like to know those types of things, and I think it would be a good education for some of us that aren't as familiar with how those projects work in the city.
Sure. I would add, Councilman Smeagol, the council within the last year gave the city the authority to do design build, which is a bit different than just a low bid environment.
Sure.
And we're very excited about having that tool in our toolbox, because unlike the low bid with the number of change orders, design build is exactly that guaranteed maximum price.
Yeah, so anything on that I think would just be good education, and also for the public to be able to understand how this works, because they don't know they don't know about the changes like with some of the low bids things too. So,
Okay.
but that's good with the other side of
The
it.
design build in our ordinance, we still have to have performance and payment bonds from our contract.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's a Virginia law.
If it's a hard bid and they go broke, really the bonding company, you're at their mercy,
Right.
unfortunately. They hire the new person to fix the finish.
Maybe you could do, RFP for dummies, or something. I don't know. What you wanna call it. Just not use bond language.
Marcus, back by the the water plant there on 38th Street, you know, at the end of Powhatan. We have a chain link fence around the facility, but inside the fence, we just have stuff laying around. Could we look at trying to, you know, putting one of those screens on the fence so it doesn't look so, you know, I mean, it sits right there in the neighborhood, so it doesn't look so beat up.
Okay.
Okay.
Right, Marcus, this is the time to ask for your big raise.
We're still on
That's the summer.
Do it now, do it now. What can you get us in the budget?
Okay, well, then the mayor's left. So Tommy, as far as you know, that's moving along.
It takes about 6 months for it to go through a process still.
It's been a while.
A little bit a month. They just signed it last month.
All right, break it up. Whatever you're doing, stop it.
I don't think
Southside
we ought to
has
take all
no
the
more money.
out of this event.
Southside has no more money.
Don't take it all out. $500-600.
One other thing that I'd like to do now is, in front of all of you, is an ordinance that is a partial real estate tax abatement ordinance. The practical effect of the ordinance is to expand our very aggressive tax abatement ordinance, but it allows someone who has purchased an old property and is using the property in a way that he could get an abatement, that also if he attaches a new building to it or a new addition, that he also gets the abatement for that. And this will, of course, in the most pressing issue, it will allow the Union Mission property to actually close in about 3 weeks. It will support a revenue stream there that will allow the process to move forward. And the Union Mission can finally get their money after years of waiting for that. So actually, I thought this matter had already been clarified, but our assessor says she really needs more distinct guidance from the council. I think at one point the attorney thought there was everything there that she needed anyway, but this just clears it up for us. So
Is it a case by case, or we just make that a blanket?
no, it's a blanket. It's a blanket case. It's not just for this.
We have to attach, it has to be adjacent to.
Yes.
Adjoining and a part of the whole product.
But also it was understood that it was gonna be that way, is what I
Yeah.
understood.
Completely understood.
Right, that's how we applied it to 201 21st Street, that project on 21st Street there, that not only did the old Farm Fresh Sears building, but added something to it as well.
This is just a clarification.
Yeah, and that's really the key, is that it's understood amongst the parties, it would be that way. If it's understood, then we should just clean it up.
Okay. Okay.
An ordinance to amend and reordain subsection A of section 24-203 and subsection C of section 24-203.1 of the Norfolk City Code so as to include the expansion of a qualifying renovation as part of the overall project for the real estate tax abatement. Dispense with the charter requirement for reading the ordinance and adopt as green.
Aye.
Mr. Prozieri?
Aye.
Mr. Riddick?
Aye.
Mr. Smigiel,
Aye.
Mr. Wynn?
Aye.
Mr. Frame?
All right. Okay, thank you all for doing that. We could have waited another month to do this, but the people at the Union Mission have been they have been dying to get their money. And the king, anyway, thank you. Okay, so I mentioned the 38th Street thing, just one of those green shields that you fit inside the link, the fence that would, then they can store everything they want back there, but that would shield it from the street. Okay, thank you. All right, this is the time that we have set aside to have questions to ask the manager for clarification about the budget. We are not making budget decisions right now. This is just in case anybody has any matters they want clarification for, or why wasn't something inserted, or why was it taken out. So what I thought we would do, and what we typically do, is just go around the table, let everybody, we go one at a time, let everybody ask questions or express any concerns. We don't have to respond to each other today. That will be later after we've had the budget hearing, and we try to form in a collaborative way some consensus about the budget. So Let me see, that was it. Oh, I typically open, I get the first question about Marcus, has anything changed since you gave us the budget? Like any financial forecasts, any thought that you might get some more money from the federal or state government? As the assessor indicated, she might find us more money in her real estate assessments, and I want you to be honest with us.
Yes, sir. No, sir.
Looking for a windfall.
Yeah,
Looking for
as a
some
matter
more
of
money to
fact,
spend.
we're hoping that it doesn't go in the opposite direction, so we are where we were last Tuesday
Same
this
thing he
morning.
said every year.
I know. Every year. And at the last minute, so. Okay, all right, Andy?
Can I knock out four?
Sure.
Four matters?
Sure, okay.
No.
The first
Can we
one,
take a vote on that?
well, I didn't know if we had to do
Yeah, it's
one
nice.
and then one.
Why don't you
and then one.
reverse it sometimes and start on the other side? Go around.
We'll do that at the final budget.
This way you can follow all my ideas. How's that?
Yeah.
I'd like to begin first within my ward, Mason Creek. I know that we've done our study. The study is pretty much concluded. I know that John and Ron are going to go, we're setting up a meeting to go back and show what our study is. But in the past, Mason Creek kind of stood out. And where are we now with assuming pump station and dredging are what we're looking at? Where can we find that it's not under a separate category?
Right. Councilman Prozier, you're exactly right. In the past, we had money set aside to do the studies. The studies are complete. So now there are basically two pots of money, one in general flooding and one in stormwater, which encompasses all of the issues that we have out there. I'll be the first to say that we're talking potentially, when it's all said, hundreds of millions of dollars potentially. But Mason Creek and Pretty Lake and The Hague, as well as Spartan Village, we are treating them out of those two pots of money I just mentioned.
So we're not being left off, we're still there, it's just we're being treated with those other areas that are
Exactly.
significant.
Exactly.
Sheriff compensation. And I know, Paul, I saw you had been involved, and Angela and Tommy. The request from the sheriff is not outrageous in his request. He's figured out that his funds come from whether it's a 2% raise or a step raise, but there's got to be a way that at your level that you discuss with him what is for the betterment of the sheriff's office from the financial perspective that you see, that he can express what he believes is the betterment of his office from the constitutional office side. I would ask that you guys meet. I think it's the manager and the sheriff to get together. They can each express their views and then come back to the council with what may be worked out of that agreement or disagreement, then we can fix it. But I think that I saw how it's projected. I've read what Marcus has done. I've talked to and received Bob's emails, but we really need to get that squared away now. And do you all agree with that, Paul? Is that okay to ask?
Sure, and I've actually asked Marcus to put a price tag on it. And I think the price tag now is $90,000.
For a
So-
full year, yes.
For a full year, but the step doesn't go into effect till when, the one you proposed in your budget?
January.
January, so that would be if the step was applied to the sheriff's deputies as well, it's a $45,000 issue.
Right. And there's also the idea that the step may not be the way to go, and it may be a
Yeah.
better way to go. So I think that needs to be expressed to the sheriff, and
I asked
that way,
as well.
and that way, if we get that to happen, and it happened at the highest levels, taking nothing away from Sabrina, but I'd ask if it happens, constitutional officer to manager, that's really where it needs to be done, even though we realize where the brains of the operation may be, Sabrina. Also, sticking with constitutional officers, and I know this may have come up, the disparity between the Commissioner of Revenue and Treasurer's salaries.
And clerk.
And clerk.
Clerk.
And clerk.
Three.
That needs to be really examined, because if you have constitutional officers who are receiving different pay for different reasons, maybe because there was an incumbent there, the incumbent's no longer there, we really need to re-examine that now and work that through. I hope that's something that can be done, but please look at that. We shouldn't just do what we did before on that, but we need to get that rectified one way or another. I think that you have, the Commissioner of Revenue is saving us money, taking nothing away from the person who was there before. However, of course, when you come in, there are certain ways that you save money. He's doing that. I think Evans is doing that. The Clerk of Court has done that, I know, with what he's done over there. So I think we need to look at making these all even instead of having disparity in that. And if you could just let me know, get back with me on how we're going to do that. And then lastly, I looked at one of the issues that had come out of our Poverty Commission meetings for the last year was taking children off the pre-K waiting list. Are we able to do that now, or how are we going to handle that situation in the future? Where are we on our budget in that?
Well, we continue to work with the school system. As a matter of fact, we have a couple of meetings scheduled this week with Dr. King and I sitting down on Thursday.
Okay.
As far as their budget request was concerned, it's about $14.5 million. And just on the operating side, through the technology requests, the proposed budget includes about $3 million for the technology.
Okay.
But then after that, we didn't go line by line in terms of some of their requests. And if it's that the council's will or desire that we put a laser focus on one or two of the requests, clearly we can do that. What we've given you is a balanced budget. And as we start to look at additional requests, it would mean that something else in the budget we'd have to reduce or reconsider in the way we deliver that service or program.
So I can better understand it, then it's up to them to distribute the money as they see fit? Is that what you're saying?
In the past, what we've done is we send the money over.
Right.
And they decide how to spend their money, yes.
Have you heard any feedback as of yet? I know you said you're going to meet with Dr. King, but since this has been produced, have you heard any feedback?
Nothing other than let's continue to sit down and talk
Okay.
and be collaborative.
Because I haven't heard anything either from a school board member.
Well, I think the cost to actually go to that waiting list for 4-year-olds is like $2 million in their budget. There was a larger number, but I think the last I talked to Courtney, and she said it was a $2 million number. One of the concerns that everybody seems to be, that I hear percolating, is the question of the quality to make sure that when we actually start to spend the money, we're just not, really good babysitters, but
I
we're
heard
really
the
getting
same
great.
thing.
So we need to make sure that they have that sort of, expertise in place. Tommy, is that a fair?
Yeah, yes, but I also think there's a big question mark about state funding too, and whether or not that hold harmless language
Right.
is gonna stay in for the $1 million, because they can put $2 million in, but they might end up losing $1 million to make up the loss from the state with our 280-something slots. So we might not see any growth in pre-K just because of the state's cuts, unless we were to make up that extra $1 million that they get cut.
I spoke directly to the Secretary of Education about that issue. And the feedback I got from her is that they were going to find a way to keep us hold us harmless. So we'll see.
We may not have any budget from the state, though.
I know, we don't have any budget yet. I know, I got you. Okay, but that's a good question.
Last two, if I could.
That's fine.
When it comes, I was never good at that. When it comes to curb and gutter, I know that one of our neighborhoods, Riverfront, has been asking for curb and gutter. And I know that it's been discussed. It's partially there just west of Titustown, before you get to Algonquin and Meadowbrook, in that area. It's a small area that is, some parts have curb and gutter, some don't. I know this is an issue that Tommy's raised. But perhaps as we look at the city where we don't have curb and gutter, it may be appropriate that becomes a priority in the future to try to put curb and gutter where we can, and it should be, we can do so many, I guess, feet every year, and we should knock that out. It should be incorporated in the budget. And then lastly, there is the neighborhood, and I think I've taken you to it, Glenwood Park. That's it's the closest to the naval base. It's between the naval base runway and Lincoln Housing, or a housing project of the Navy, cut off basically from the rest of the city. The closest rec center for them is Titustown. But for those kids to get there, that is not easy. It can be done, but it's not easy. That being said, if we could get Parks and Rec to begin to look at improvements in that neighborhood, whether it's budgetary issues now, whether it's something that they can begin for programs that are there that they can put in place. I don't know whether it falls under budget or not, but we need to do something. Because I know we've looked at it, and I think we lost a little bit of momentum when Daryl left, because he went with me there, so we need to get something done there. That's all I have for now. Thank you.
Mr. Riddick?
Okay. Well, I guess I'm singing the same tune I've been singing for the last couple of budgets, and that's money for retirees. They're not in the budget. And I guess my question, when was the last time they were in the budget?
We did have a COLA, I believe in 2012, the first year that I came.
2012?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And how much did that cost us? You know, and because once you put it in, it's an annual expense.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So the 1% COLA is about $700,000. But to the liability against the 1% COLA would be closer to $7.8 million.
7.8 million, meaning what?
Meaning that if you gave that COLA, let's say starting next year,
Right.
you would give that 1% COLA to everybody who received it
Right.
every year thereafter,
Right.
as long as they are still receiving money from the retirement fund. So
Uh-huh.
that's the total liability for 1% COLA.
Okay. But that 7 million is not, that's over a period of time?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
You know, I think about the retirees and whose backs this city was built on. And while it might seem like a very, very difficult task, I'd like for you to look at it and see how close you can come to it. Okay? That's one thing. Secondly, you know, we spoke about the Hague and Spartan Village. But when we had that same nor'easter over in Ingleside, that was a tremendous impact. People lost automobiles and things of that nature. And I'd like for Ingleside to be, and this is over around Brennan Avenue, around in that portion that's right on the Broad Creek, to be looked at as a possibility of being included in that, you know, study. Okay. Now, the next thing I have, you know, I think Andy just said something about, you know, we give the money to the school district and they, you know, do what they want to do with them. In regards to technology, this might be far off. Suppose our IT department went over to the school district, found out what they needed, and don't give the money to them, but to see if we could bundle, you know, what their needs with our purchases. We would actually own the hardware, and we would, you know, put it in our budget, and that would, you know, keep us. First of all, if it's possible, it would let us know exactly what's going on, and they wouldn't be able to take the money and say, well, we're going to use half of it now and put this over there later. And also, just like you have these consortiums when you buy health insurance. I'm wondering, would that be some type of savings if we, you know, just bundle our tech needs or bring their IT needs over with ours? And I know you don't have an answer for that now. If you could just, you know, check that out. Also, the Glen Rock community, they're having some new developments over there. And one of the things is just like Andy mentioned, there are some communities that don't have curbs, sidewalks, and gutters. And this is one community that's, you know, in that same shape. It was a part of Princess Anne County, I'm sure, until the early 1960s, and then it was annexed into Norfolk. And we, as a city, have never gone over and done anything with them in terms of curbs, sidewalks, and gutter. And so we could look at that, including them, as well as trying to identify a green space over there that we might give some recreation opportunities for the youngsters over there. And that's my first round.
Okay, a couple of things. You touched on the sheriff's office, so let that go. I know in the budget for the schools, we're apart, and we don't know how far close we're gonna be, but I would certainly hope, that I know we give them their money, and they do it as they please, that they would give their teachers raises on the par with what our city employees are getting. I know we can't tell them that or dictate it to them, but I think we're kicking in with 2% in January, and I certainly think, in my understanding, it was in there, but it may not be in still
It's in
at
the
this
14
point.
million extra that they
Right,
asked for.
Right, so, I mean, and we don't know what, I know there's some money left over maybe, and the state may give them some more, and I know we can't tell them how to spend the money, but I would certainly think they would be in line to do that. Also, I noticed in our neighborhood plans, we've got $1 million for several neighborhoods, and that the housing authority money, $2.5 million, we're gonna try to get, we can designate that to Ocean View. Why do we have to put it there? Why couldn't we just put it like where we do in Wards Corner, South Side? Is there might be a good political reason for that. Is there a reason? I mean,
No, sir. What we did, and I guess it predates me both times, I guess around 2002, there were a series of studies with neighborhoods, these 4 neighborhood plans.
right.
And so that's the only reason that you
Because
see.
we don't have a formal neighborhood plan for Ocean View, is that what
We
you're
have
saying?
5.
Well,
There's 5 neighborhood plans.
So you had money going into Fairmont Park and Southside and Broad Creek and Wards Corner. And then for years, you had almost $4 million going to the Housing Authority for, I guess they would call it neighborhood conservation rehabilitation. And there were 4 areas in that. So what's occurred over the last 2 years is that that's about a $2.5 million funding source.
Right.
More than $1 million is earmarked for Ocean View. But to your question, going forward, if we just pulled Ocean View out, that would mean that
Gave
the
them
county.
1.5, and I
We did it last year. It was separated last year, mentioned specific. This year, we talked earlier about
It's
the
not,
language.
it's nothing against the
It's
housing
there.
authority.
It's
Okay.
there. It's just,
We're-
it didn't specifically say Ocean View.
All right, two more quick things. I noticed we put.
I mean, money is, I know that we always argue is money, but I mean, that is money, right? I mean,
Right.
So, that's, you can address the concerns, your concerns, that.
Maybe it's just a feel-good thing if it had in there.
And I understand that too. Whether it has the name Ocean View attached to it, then that's, okay.
A couple more quick things. I noticed, and I know we're tight, so nothing going in the reserve, especially for legal and what have you. I'm personally not comfortable with the level of reserves we have for that. I think it's $3 million. And that's not even a bad lawsuit loss. So, and I know, but if we do find any money, I think a good business decision would be to try to increase those reserves. Because we're gonna have to, if something happens, the downside, we're gonna have to come up with some.
Well, we're at the bottom end of our goals of
$3 million for that and economic downturn, right?
Yes, yes. As of June 30, 2014. But any settlement that would happen after that would bring those reserves down.
But the attorney has his own fund that he draws on to pay losses.
No, it's
Out
the
of
same risk
the-
management fund. It's got the workers'
It's the same.
compensation, yes. yes.
When it's the 3 million, but beyond that, you have your reserves to go to.
But
You
for a
All right, Sabrina,
catastrophic
you want to explain it,
lawsuit?
Sabrina? I see you shaking. Go ahead.
Well, if it's a catastrophic lawsuit like we had a couple of years ago, where does that money come from?
Risk management.
Which is this $3 million? Or you
So
have,
Sabrina, go ahead.
We have a risk management reserve fund, which has $3 million, that's
Right.
off. That's not in the budget, that's on
you
our
have
sheet.
another $3 million.
Right, that's what we talk about in terms of reserves. Then you also have the risk management reserve fund in the budget, which is about $4 million.
Right,
And
that's what I
some of
was
that
trying
is
to.
used to pay claims that are ongoing, but that's tapped out. Every year we spend that. So the
So
$3
we
million
have 4 and then we have 3 we can go to, right?
Right, So what the manager is saying is that any pending lawsuit would have to come out of that 3 million that's in our reserves.
So all we have is 3 million.
Correct.
Okay, so it took a long time to get around to that. So, okay, well, I just think that that's perilously low, but, two other things. Terminal Boulevard, I noticed we've got like $1,750,000 in for repairing the concrete, and the state's matching that. Does the port help us with any, I mean, they're the ones beating up our road over there. I mean, can we not get any, that is the major entrance, and it's in horrible shape. And or is that the state's matching, is that what they consider?
Well, we hope to improve that, and I've talked with the director of the port, I talked to John, and I've talked with, actually mentioned it to the governor at one point, I've talked with Aubrey Lane about it, I've talked to our CTB guys. I mean, that Terminal Boulevard takes a beating because of the trucks,
That is.
okay? But it is our road, and so I would hope to improve that, Barclay, before we're finished. I mean, the manager went ahead in the budget with what he knows his condition is right now. But there is some hope that, at least at some point, we'll get some relief from that matching fund, that they'll put more into it. Okay, we're really,
I know you've
that's a
been
point of
working on that
contention.
for
No,
taxes. and
I'm glad you raised the point. I mean.
But I mean, if there's ever anything could directly
If there was ever, you could.
attribute to the port, that's a rough
Absolutely.
road. And one last little item, you've got a thing in here for $143 for a CHOTO set-aside requirement, which we've never funded before. What is that? It's on page 567, and it was 00, and now it's 150,000.
CHOTOs are with the home funds from HUD entitlement.
Well, I know it, yeah.
And those are, the 15% of those funds have to be set aside or returned back. The CHOTO set aside is we'll be issuing an RFP and changing the methodology of how we'll be funding CHOTOs. Currently, the CHOTOs that we have designated in the city have balances, and it hasn't been moving. So we're revamping the program.
This is not something we've never done before, we're just doing it a different way.
We're doing it a different way.
So it showed up in last year's budget
Right.
somewhere else.
Where you've seen it before is under Plumb Line and Beacon Light, and now it's the 143 for the set aside that we'll be issuing the RFP with NRHA. NRHA actually administers the program.
As long as you understand. Okay.
So Sabrina, you're saying that, that NRHA will determine, who gets it now versus Plumb Line getting theirs and Beacon Light, submitting it? Is that what you're saying? How would it work if we turn the money over to NRHA?
NRHA has always had the money. They do the designations for the CHOTOs. They administer the whole program by designating them. This way, at this point, with the money that's sitting there, eventually, if we don't spend that money, or the CHOTOs currently don't spend the money, HUD will take it back. So we've got to find a new way of expending those funds. And we're going to be doing the RFP along with NRHA. NRHA does not have final say in this.
Okay. Because, they have the NRHA has a way of excluding minority contractors. And I would hate for them to get their hands on this money and exclude Plumb Line and Beacon Light.
Sure.
That's not a possibility, is it?
No, we'll be involved, and the manager gets to make the final decision.
Okay,
We can always
okay.
bring it back before this body as well.
That's all I have.
This is great.
Yeah, my original question was to ask you about the design funding for the boxing center at Farrar Park. And because we got a letter from the commissioner saying that you had funded and then this current, the budget we on now, and that the design was near complete, and I was gonna ask you to go on and, to complete the funding of the boxing center. But then when I looked on page 478, it seems like the design, that you have money in there for the design for the 2015, 2016 budget, so what is?
We do. What we did, Ms. Green, is that last year as we were talking through the budget, the boxing center came up. And while there is, I guess, are millions of dollars associated with the Recreation Parks and Open Space Master Plan, we tried to make sure that this became a priority. And the best way to make it a priority was to actually put funding in. I think there was discussion around the table last year about raising money and doing whatever we could as a city to get it completed. But the funding there, and even after it's all expended, if, let's say we have more than what we need for design, that will be the beginning of money that we would accumulate over time to finish the project.
So that's in the 20-year plan, so that will not, you don't have a timeline for when the boxing center
I don't.
will be completed. They do a good job over there with Gloria Peaks.
Yes.
So you have completed the design on it, like the commissioner said.
Yes, we have committed the funds to complete the design,
Oh,
yes.
you just committed, I think
Yeah.
he seemed to thought that the design was completed. Okay. And,
Can we, what is that? Has the boxing center been designed or not, Marcus?
Well, Mayor, there are different levels of design. I'm not sure where we are. There could be preliminary design, and there could be something that you have construction documents that you can build.
But I think in last year's budget, there was like a $250,000 slot for the design. Is that, or, I don't, my memory may not be right, but I think there was, about that, and that's a pretty good piece of money for a building that's like 10% of a boxing center that we were talking about, like $2.5 million.
Yes.
I mean, maybe my memory's wrong, but the center itself was, I mean, that ought to get you to construction documents.
We'll check with Daryl to see where we are credited.
Yeah, I mean, okay.
so I hope it won't take 20 years for it to get completed.
No,
Okay, all
because
right.
that's, that,
20-year plan,
but
I hope
if
you
we set
can
aside that money
see it.
last year, if it's being spent or has been spent,
Okay.
that ought to get you to the point where you're pretty close to, I'm not talking about conceptual stuff. I mean, we all, I think, I mean, it's a boxing.
Yes.
It's not, then, anyway, you know what I mean. You can, it's gonna be a lot of, concrete block and stuff too, as well. It's gonna be a nice facility, but for $2.5 million, you can get a lot of boxing center, Anyway, if you'll get back to us on that.
Sure.
Gloria does a good job over there too. The young men won a national award this year. Under which department tab is the funding for the director of the Resilient City Project, or does that come under our budget?
No,
Or is that another time?
no, we could do that now. In May, you'll have an ordinance coming before council to accept the grant, and the Rockefeller Foundation will pay for that position.
Okay. And my next question is the Better Blocks grant gonna be the only funding for 5 points, If not, where could I find additional funding in here to do a study for the development of 5 points? Then because at the task force meeting a couple of weeks ago, the Northview Task Force, the question came up about how successful are these Better Blocks and how many businesses do we garner from them? And the person there, they couldn't give us an answer right then. So that's my question, for this.
Sure. Councilwoman Green, so I guess two pieces. One, the Better Block pilots were really an opportunity for those 3 communities to gather a vision of what the communities can look like. But in terms of money that's set aside for these areas in the budget that we presented to you, what we attempted to do was take a new look at accounts that have been sitting around for a while. So we have some gateway accounts that have been around since 1996, bits and pieces of money, and we pulled them all together, and we have about $2.8 million that's available to the council that could be used for anything for neighborhoods. One piece of it is really from the Neighborhood Commercial Corridor Program, and that includes areas such as 35th Street, Collie, 5 Points, as well as the neighborhood aesthetic improvement grants. So between those pots of money that we've accumulated, there's $2.8 million for council for these types of projects that have been discussed today, from streets and sidewalks to beautification.
And were you, thank you. Were you able to give the seniors any tax relief on their municipal taxes than this budget we would have had.
Right. So, Ms. Green, for the senior disabled tax relief, as you may recall, the council capped the total relief at $5 million. And earlier this year, sometime in March, we came back to the council with recommendations. So the program as is has a $5 million cap. The cap relief is at about $203,000. The relief can either be through an exemption or deferral. The Councilman Smeagol had mentioned another way of looking at it, but the program right now is to get that exemption, it would be no one making more than $28,611 in terms of income. And then for the participants that are over $28,611 up to $67,000, they could have a deferral program. So what we did is took the council suggestion. So my recommendation is what we said earlier.
Okay.
Is what we said earlier, which would just to be remove the interest on the deferral, to freeze the cap at the 2014 level, and then to clarify that anybody who's making $28,611 or less would not participate in any proration if we went above the $5 million. Councilman Smeagol asked us to, and if it's okay, I can give you the information from the request from Councilman Smeagol as well as Councilman Riddick. Councilman Smeagol asked what would happen if you just took it to the $36,958 level. So in other words, the individuals who were eligible for an 80% deferral. And it's really two ways of looking at that. If you took that line, if we understood the request the right way, if you took that line of the 80% deferral individuals, and we couldn't just use 2014 because behavior changed, we went back a few years and gathered a few data points, you could basically have an average exemption amount of $450 for everybody at that $36,000 level and lower back to the $28,612. But there would be no deferral for them. There would just be that on average $450 exemption. And then if you took it a step further and you said, okay, what about if we just stopped the program at $36,958, and instead of letting the income go up to $67,000, if you just said anybody over that number could not participate in the program, you could get an exemption for those individuals in that 80% category of about 47%. But that would be a big change to the program because you'd have about 340 people who are currently eligible for the program would be out of the program completely. And then Councilman Riddick asked, what if we looked at the net worth? So we cut it two ways. The net worth is now $350,000, I believe, right? So we cut it two ways, and we said, well, it's kind of interesting if you just look at the numbers for net worth. About 92% of the participants that receive 100% exemption have a net worth of $100,000 or less.
Okay.
And if you look at the entire universe, everyone, about 90% of everybody in the program has a net worth of $100,000 or less. So if we took the net worth from $350 and we started off by saying, let's move it down to $250, you would basically have something like 80 people less in the program. Let me make sure I get that right. About 88 participants would no longer be eligible for the program because they have this net worth above 250. So they would drop out of the program because the net worth would drop them out. If you scaled it back to 200,000, you would have roughly, I'm sorry, I did that wrong. If you scale it back to 250,000, you would have about how many people out of the program? 47 people out of the program. If you scaled it back to 200,000 for net worth, it would be about 88 people out of the program. So what we found is the vast majority of the people, over 90%, have that net worth under 100,000. So those are the two questions that were posed about making alterations to the program.
The first one, the actual one where I suggested that people that were getting 80, 60, 40, and 20 went from getting no tax relief to deferral, basically, under the 28,611. So I talked about a senior, a kind of a senior poverty number where 28,611 is a federal poverty number, but I look at senior poverty a little bit different because they're maybe don't have as much access to getting a job, and also because of medical costs and things that, could you argue that there's a different number for seniors? I don't know if anybody's found that number. I've tried Googling, looking. Which one?
The federal poverty rate for seniors
Is lower, okay. Well, like I said, the ones that I heard complaints from were more of the ones that were in that $30,000 range that understand the fiscal constraints of the city, but were upset that they're now not getting any tax relief, which is why I was suggesting, is there a way to give them some form of a tax relief? $450 is a lot of money to a senior on a fixed income, even if you're able to give that to them. And I think that we dropped this so fast on seniors that it didn't give them an opportunity to be able to adjust to that. And that's the band of people that I think that I'm most concerned about, that are not making those payments or were confused about the deferral program and opted out of it, not knowing what it was, thinking that they were still getting a partial tax relief. Even, was it 2 council meetings ago, we had somebody come down before us that thought he was still getting tax relief, didn't understand it. And that's what happens quite often with our seniors, especially with every year. There were changes that were being made as you came in to the application process, to notarizing, to affidavits and things. I think we haven't given a fair shot to our seniors. So I was hopeful that we would be able to try to address that. Now, I know you said it's something that you have to go back on. I thought it was interesting that Virginia Beach, I don't know what they do differently, but their deadline for their senior tax relief program is June 30th. So is that just because they have so much more money that they can push it to that number? Or, our deadline is so much earlier than our actual budget year. So I know that you would have to go back and do that, but if we could find that group of people that have that in that bracket and be able to offer them even a 20%, they would take it because they're hurting that bad for that relief.
So to answer your question, the date of June 1st, I guess, really allows us time to process information. So I don't think it would be that difficult to change the end date. What I mentioned earlier this year is that I think when I made the presentation 2 days earlier, we had already sent out the application. And while the application had a statement that is subject to changes for the council, the thing that I would recommend to the council is, as I recommended earlier this year, is to start off by just making the deferral, making the interest go away. Anything else, any other alterations to the program, such as the $36,000, which suggested some people who are eligible in the current year will not be eligible next year, and there's a whole nother level of issues related to that. But those are the answers to the council's questions, and we can change this process to whatever is the will of the council.
Okay, thank you. In your lifelong learning tab under that, could you include a book, a children's book on the history of Norfolk? Some cities have it, like Charleston and Atlanta. They have, their little fun books that you can get it to sit in. It's a thing for the people here and for the tourists. I don't know how much money it would generate, but somewhere under the lifelong learning, could you include that?
What kind of book are you talking
A
about?
little, with the history of Norfolk. Some of them have. I've seen some that have fun facts. I used to teach 3rd grade years ago, and we used to teach Norfolk history in the 3rd grade. But the SOLs, I can't find where we teaching Norfolk history, and I think children need to know the history of our city. And Atlanta and Charleston have these kinds of books that you can buy. And years ago, when I taught, we used to buy coloring books for the city of Norfolk, but with some of the history of Norfolk or facts about Norfolk or something like that, with pictures for children.
What was the, a book not long ago, I think it might have been associated with the library for children. Do you remember that book that was, Brett?
The
There's a
Mermaid
mermaid book.
The
Yeah,
Mermaid. The
Is
Mermaid
that what it
book.
is? I don't know what
That was
mermaid.
about the mermaids,
That was a children's, yeah, but that was.
yeah, that
I don't
was
know if
in,
that was it.
in the
Yeah.
history.
Yeah.
I don't recall.
Yeah,
what
no, that's
history
not,
it
that's not
was
what you're
for.
talking about. Maybe
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know.
not.
Yeah, but that's a good idea though.
And then I'm gonna end with this one. On your community, Barrett Haven, on page 563, you have, you know, they're not getting any money this year, but if they're not getting any money, why are they listed? I was on the founding board of that. They did get money a couple of years ago, but since they got money a couple of years ago, you have to
That's exactly.
continue. That's
Right.
the answer to that.
Yes, we
Okay,
showed
okay.
the last 3 years
Okay,
of
okay,
allocation,
okay,
yes.
all right,
yes.
thank you. That's it. Oh, wait a minute, one more thing, and one more thing, then I'm gonna get to you, Tom, you talk all of my time. Oh, I know we can't tell the schools, you know, how to use the money, because I've been on the school board, but I certainly hope that somewhere in there that they can look at getting the kindergarten classes down to 15 and maybe full-time aides. When my daughter teaches in Virginia Beach, they have 15 children per kindergarten class and a full-time aide. And those children, a lot of them have moved to that section where she teaches from our city. And I hope, you know, I know we can't tell them what to do, because we used to fuss about y'all telling us what to do when I was over there. But I hope that can happen, and I'm done now, Tom.
There's nothing left.
Good.
I sent Marcus and Sabrina my questions yesterday, knowing that they probably wouldn't be able to get me answers. It's interesting, some of the comments that were made earlier are very similar. I had questions about the sheriff deputies getting a step increase, and agree with Andy that there needs to be that conversation, because I think that the sheriff would like to explain what he thinks is best for his guys that's different than our opinion, and I think it needs to be addressed. They should be considered public safety officers and receive that same step, in my opinion. And I agree with Mr. Riddick. When I talk to retirees, they always like to mention that there's one thing that Mr. Riddick and I get along on is COLAs for retirees. And I think that I understand the long-term impact on that. And I had asked in my questions to you about how much it would cost for a 0.5% and a 1%, just something to show that we appreciate what our retirees are doing. And looking at that, I think that we're going to hear from them at the budget hearing next week and hear more of their stories of what they're facing financially. I think also down the road, it's for recruitment reasons. For you and hiring employees, knowing what they're going to get when they retire is important for them. I wanted to bring up those two issues specifically because they're important to me. But I want to focus on neighborhood funding. Our general plan, I believe, won an award. There was a lot of work that went into that, and we have all of these neighborhoods that are listed as, I think we pared it down to about 19 neighborhoods, roughly, maybe 20. And I know you said that there's 2.8 million. Where is that located in the budget book? You said 2.8 to share with 35th Street and,
Half of that is prior accounts
okay,
that have been sitting around for a while, I guess, looking for a purpose.
okay.
So we can use about $1.4 million gateway projects, neighbors building neighborhoods. So that
Okay.
is prior CIP accounts, and
And
as
the
it's,
million in the housing, the one that's the housing authority.
no, outside of that.
Okay.
And then above that, you also have a $1.4 million that I remember my first month here, council decided on how to spend a good portion of the neighborhood commercial area improvements funds. but the council never decided for the remaining 1.4 million.
So this is my concern here. I had asked in there, I wanted to know how much money has accumulated in neighborhood accounts. I know Southside has a plan with theirs, so they're kind of out of it. Ward's Corner accumulates just a little bit, spends it, and then accumulates a little bit more and then spends it. In Ocean View, the money that's allotted for Ocean View is covering 5 neighborhoods, so it's not focused there. When we discussed neighborhoods and increasing funding to it, I wasn't expecting to see it come the way that it did. In fact, I was a little bit disappointed to see that Fairmont Park is getting $1 million again, or $750, and then they already have money being invested in infrastructure, and that Broad Creek is getting that funding. At some point, this council, and I think this is the year, 5 Points deserves investment. Park Place deserves investment. Military Highway, Little Creek Road Corridor deserves investment. We need to take this money and take that 2.8 million, go back to that neighborhood plan, which has outlined projects that have to be done. And we need to say $250,000 is going this year to 5 Points to be spent on improving the curb appeal in that area. We can't sit here and say that money's in an account just sitting there and accumulating, and every year we just let it go by and we're not spending it. Our citizens deserve to see that money being spent, not sitting in an account. And that's my concern. That's why I asked. I wanted to know how much money is accumulating. Fairmont Park is a great neighborhood, but how much money has the city invested in that neighborhood in curbs and sidewalks when other neighborhoods haven't received any money for curbs and sidewalks, but we're giving them an additional $750,000 for blight? Why can't we take that $750 and give it now to 5 Points or to Park Place so that they can start doing some projects there? Instead, we're hoarding it in areas of the city, and we're seeing fixes in that area, which is good, but we're not seeing that money spread out through the city where I think we're going to get a bigger bang for our buck, and our citizens would appreciate seeing that money more. We have to at some point say this is now time to spend that money. I use as an example down with the Ocean View Conservation Fund, buying that burned down hotel was a great investment for the city, and that money came from a variety of places, but it came out of 2 neighborhood plans that were, because it's right on the edge, to pay for that with additional help from the Land Revolving Fund. That was a big purchase for the city that made a difference. And it really only took 200 out of this one neighborhood and 200 out of this neighborhood. That's where you start seeing that impact. I think we've got to look at those plans, take that money, allot it to things that we can do in there. All of them have, there's an appendix in the general plan that tells you priorities and where that money should be spent. So let's do it. Let's get James' staff together, look at that plan, and, well, is he there yet? Is that official?
Yes.
And say, hey, if a priority in 5 Points was that, then let's take that money right now out of that 2.8 million and say we're going to spend it this year, and let's spend it. Let's not sit there and wait for somebody, a council member, to say, hey, this is a priority of mine now, and then July comes and it just rolls over into the next budget. That way we need to clean out those numbers so that next year we can ask you for more so we can continue growing and see the results of that.
Can I ask a question? In regards to 5 Points, is there a fund for 5 Points? Or would we be creating a fund for 5 Points?
I want to create one.
Okay.
I would-
Because see, I've been there for 30 years, my business. And in 30 years, the only thing that they did was take an awful traffic configuration and make it a little bit better. So if we're talking about creating a fund, are we talking about going down Sewell's Point Road and acquiring, some of the things right there? I'm not saying that because I would be a beneficiary of it, but there are some things that needs to happen, maybe like Alexander Street. We need to get rid of some stuff over there. So, I would, certainly support that, not as a beneficiary, because I'm right on the main street and nothing's happening with me, but in there, Sewell's Point Road, Chesapeake Boulevard, Alexander Street, those things need some attention.
It's interesting, because picking up where Tommy said, if you take from 5 Points and you take Chesapeake Boulevard north, it really is just that few blocks that really is, and that's the Alexander Street side that bleeds over on Chesapeake Boulevard, because it really sits the entire block that needs to be worked on. And I agree with what Tommy says. Unfortunately, I really think it's our responsibility. We're the ones as council that have to come up with that policy where the money should go. And maybe we haven't done it really well. I think in the past, over the last 3 years, it's, I've seen my million at, Ward's Corner, great. Barclay, we got $1 million at Ward's Corner, we're happy. And you make your grab, and unfortunately, it's not looking at the bigger picture, which is what you're talking about.
Right.
And I really think that perhaps we need to begin a different discussion after next Tuesday, and that really is to look at where help really needs to go. You've seen where certain things have turned around, where the city's money may not necessarily be needed at the volume that it was given in the past, because private development has jumped in and has helped to make certain changes. And that's really the whole purpose, exactly. So perhaps it needs to be a reevaluation of that, as Tommy has said, and that may be either a retreat issue or an issue which is pushing it down, I understand.
We can't, Andy, we can't wait. Look, Sabrina, how much money is in Fairmont Park's account? How much do they have?
I'm not
I'm just curious.
saying wait.
How much has been,
But-
is added up in Fairmont Park from previous years?
I'd have to check that for you.
I'm
Do you
not
have an
saying-
estimate? Do you have a rough estimate? Is it millions of dollars? Is it 500,000?
I think they've spent quite a bit of it.
So this accumulation, Broad Creek has how much sitting there? I'm not attacking Broad Creek. I know they need the money, but how do we take that money now and go outside of Broad Creek and start making an impact? Instead of creating these islands of great neighborhoods, we need to start spreading that money out and make it. So anyway, that's what I've asked for in this. And I think the conversation needs to happen before that. We talked about it last retreat. In fact, I mentioned letting each ward have a TIF area to
Right.
generate
We
money
argued
for
about
that. Yeah.
But we didn't get beyond the argument
Well, no,
because
they-
it was the TIF issue. And the TIF issue is what really caused me to literally walk around with the Broad Creek TIF in my briefcase.
Right.
I mean, and spent some time being tutored on it and understanding it very well. That being said, if we can get it done now, I agree 100%. If we can get it done, in the next 30 days, we get the budget done, that's fine. But how are we gonna know the needs?
It's in the general plan.
Yeah.
That general
Yeah,
plan.
but how are we gonna know the
We
need?
vote-
I understand that.
no,
How do we know
hold
the
on.
need of Alexander Street
'Cause it
versus
says it in the
military
fi-
highway?
It
What
says
comes
it-
first?
It says it in the general plan in 5 points. It talks about Alexander Street and what is needed for that.
But what
In
comes
that-
first?
In that case, that's what we decide.
Right,
And if it
exactly, that's
means,
what I'm saying.
and if it means that each council ward has a project that they've identified separate from these to be able to spend that money, then that's how we do it, to make sure that it's being equally distributed
Well, I think we're
around
saying the same
city.
thing. My fear is, we're saying exact same
Right.
thing. My fear is, can we educate ourselves and make smart decisions as quickly as you believe we can?
If we don't do it now, I guarantee you that there will be $1.4 million sitting in the account next year. If somebody doesn't go after that money and spend it right now, it will sit there. And so we have to identify what those projects are.
Well-
And if each council member looked at the general plan and brought a section that is not being currently funded and said, this is what's it, and then we look at that one pot of money, then let's do it that way. But it has to be spent. It's just, I'm not trying to run, Paul, I'm just saying, there's a disconnect. That editorial said that this budget was taking it to the next step with investing in neighborhoods. You're investing in neighborhoods, but in these 5 neighborhoods, there's how many neighborhoods in the city? So how do we just take that and spread that money out?
And I wasn't gonna argue with you. I mean, I'm not, but I would like to say that we have tried to resist over time giving each ward certain equal pots of money so each council member could use it I mean, in a way that he thought it was, I don't know if you were getting to that point. but-
No, I wanted to,
but
what's
I mean,
identified in the
if you
general
took-
plan.
Okay. I
Yeah.
mean, I just don't want to
They've
say,
already.
okay, here's your $250,000, you spend it where you, they do that in some cities, and we've,
No,
I
no,
don't
no,
think
not
that's
at
the way to
all.
do it.
No, 5 points in their general plan has already said what their priorities are. So if you can pick off one of those things and you get a dollar amount and you say maybe it's 550,000 to buy an apartment building that's causing a lot of issues there or whatever, then that we take out of that 1.4 million 550 and we allocate it to that, and we say this is that line to go after this blighted property or this problem property. If it's Little Creek Road and adding medians there, and we need 250,000 to add a median strip there because it's going to put trees, and it's going to make, then we allocate that money.
You and I have talked
If
about
it's
this
in the
before.
plan.
I
Right,
agree.
Right.
I just want to make sure that we make the right decisions and we don't do it, that we have not educated ourselves well enough. That's my fear.
Okay.
And it's a sincere fear that I would make the wrong decision.
Yeah.
And maybe we need to rely on each other to make the right decision on that, what's needed within the ward. I agree with you. I mean, you and I've said it. I think, down Little Creek Road, like you said, to have trees and medians is perfect. Something that beautifies it and breaks up some of that monotony of signs and used car lots. I just want to make sure that when I make that decision and we say $250,000 for that and $250,000 to purchase an apartment building, that I've made the right decision. And I don't know if you can make that happen fast enough. I mean, if you can, let's do it.
Can you bring,
You tell us you
Yes.
can you
can't.
get all council
Yes.
members just the section on neighborhood plans for the general plan? I know it's available online, but get that to all of us with the appendix that actually identified in the appendix. It has all the needs in there, and just to remind council what we decided already of those 19 plans.
Yes, and I'd like to do a step better. So it's great that the council's having this discussion, because I agree with you 100%. That's why we brought these accounts to you. On top of that, what we found, I think, maybe you found with one of the riots recently, with one of my assistant city managers, is that there have been a lot of conversations going on for years in neighborhoods. And some of those conversations about what the neighborhood can look like and what the neighborhood really wants doesn't really fall into that plan. So I believe it's a combination of bringing the components of the plan plus the history that is a part of planning, is a part of the neighborhood specialists, that we can all put it together for the council so that you can do exactly what you said. How can you prioritize them in a way?
That's my fear.
Yes.
How can you do that fast enough? Can you do it?
Yes.
Okay.
I think some
he
of,
can, but to get, even to build on Andy's point, by the time we do our own spade work with the neighborhoods and then bid the stuff, I mean, design it, bid it, I mean, that's a year-long process anyway.
Well, let's see what's there.
I agree with that.
yeah.
I mean, there's no perfect way to do this.
And
Yeah,
some
our
of
wrecking
the
ball is Alexander Street. We don't need to design anything.
Yeah.
and some of the neighborhoods have strong civic leagues. And then some of the neighborhoods, like my neighborhood, they have a lot of old folks like me there. And and the people have moved out and the children have moved away and the houses are being sold and rented. And even the new houses that are being built, and we don't, and they need a strong council person to stand up, and advocate for them, because that's what's happening. I think where you have strong civic league leadership, those are the communities in that ward that are getting, the attention.
And I hope you noticed that I said 5 points and Park Place before I said any neighborhood in Ward 5. I just want everybody to know that. Particularly 5 points, because that is a gateway into our city from people who come in from the airport. They gotta drive right through that. The best looking place there is Paul Riddick's funeral home.
It's only when he's there.
Just two other quick things. I'd asked for a presentation. I just had a concern about this $5.2 million for rehabilitate reservoirs system-wide. And I did not see that in last year's budget unless I missed it. So it seems like something new that needs to be done. And I'm curious as to what we're putting $5.2 million in. Because if we could spend that on neighborhoods, I know. That's why
utility fund.
it was a joke. Paul. I'm asking. I just want to know what that is, because it sounds like it's being spent all the way out in our lakes. And then the final one, let me add two and then I'll be done. I had asked about doing the same thing that Virginia Beach and Chesapeake have done with BPOL for new businesses. I think that we could be losing some small businesses because we did not adopt the flexibility that the state allowed. And I'm wondering where we are with that. Since it's a 2-year, I think it's a 2-year exemption that we can get for it. It doesn't really cost the city anything up front because if you can get that new business to stay, you end up making something in the long run. And then finally, I'd asked about an animal management center, a new one, or what are we going to do to address that issue? Because I think the lease on that building is going to be coming up soon. And what are we doing now to address that? I know animals aren't necessarily the biggest priority, but if there's a way to save money in the long run by having a newer facility, I think it's something that we need to start addressing, whether we take an old school building that we can't sell and we can convert that into a animal management and save money in the long run, or do we need to get a new facility? That's it. Now you have nothing left.
Okay, and I've just got Sabrina, on page 50 of the book, you have a risk management reserve of $3 million. And I want to clear up one of Barclay's questions, and then it's something in my mind. Now on page 259 of the budget, you have proposed $3,120,000 for claim payments and insurance. Okay? If I were to total those funds, I'd have $6,120,000. Is that right?
Yes, but the one that's on page 50 is in fund balance, and you would have to appropriate that. The one that's on 259.
I understand that, but I
every
mean, the
year.
question was, what will we go to? You still got your you got a little over 5% undesignated, but we'd have to go get that money, but it's still available to solve Barclay's problem about if we had a risk management issue where would we go for the money?
Sure, you could. The one that's on 259 is also to pay our insurance payments and also any claims that we have.
I mean, during the course of the year, the city manager the city attorney draws on those funds
Correct.
to pay claims. He's also got this year $1,200,000 set aside for legal fees and stuff, so he got an improvement there of $700,000. He got an improvement of $190,000 in his risk management fund. So what I was trying to get to, and you should don't, if I'm not correct, I mean,
Yes, so Mayor,
so we have the $3,120,000, which over the course of the year, plus the legal fees, to assist the city attorney in taking care of our legal obligations. And then if he were to run out of that, or if we had a big hit, we'll say, somebody got a $5 million judgment against us, we could go to that risk management reserve. That's why it's there.
yes, sir. So on June 30th, 2015, not this June 30th, we will be less than $3 million in the risk management reserve, page 50. Because there are going to be outstanding claims against that and outstanding
Was that the
claims.
case last year?
I'm sorry, sir.
Was that the case
No,
last year?
sir. So what's important is we'll get to this book, which our CAFR will be based on, will be June 30th, and we'll be at 3 million. But if everything plays out the way it may play out, we'll be less than that. So while we have enough money, like you said, on 259 to pay for everything, and as Sabrina said earlier, we typically go to zero. Once the moment you get past zero, it's either we find money in the budget.
We go to your
Yes, sir.
$2 million fund, or we go someplace else?
Exactly, yes. We would go there before we go to
Right.
page
But,
50.
and I would assume next year, even if you had to deplete this, even if we went there, you would refurbish it again before we did anything.
Yes, sir. Our recommendation with any surplus would go
Right.
right back to that, yes.
But, Paul, I mean, what you found, that 3 million, that's been there every year.
I know.
That other 3 million has
And
been,
a significant portion of it is workers' compensation claims and payments.
I
which-
understand that. I mean, I get, but in 212, it was 2,000,003. In 213, it was 2,000,005. In 2014, it was 2,900. This year, it's 3,100.
but
I
the
mean-
3 million outside of that is significantly less.
Yeah, I'm not
It has
arguing
to.
anything, but I'm trying to
And it
solve,
needs to be.
in my mind, I always knew that the city attorney had a fund that he could go to, and then we didn't always have that fund. That was just a few years ago, we set aside something called a risk management fund a few years ago, 8 or 9 years ago, so. Okay, but I mean, I think we're in good shape there, but I'm glad you got it there, and I'm stressed to hear that, we may have to draw on it, but
But it has
anyway,
been
that's,
high too.
no, not that
The
much.
goal.
It's been significantly higher than 3.
No, never been better than 3. That risk management fund,
It was higher.
it was?
Mayor, you're talking about page 50 or page 259?
I'm talking about page 50.
It has been higher, yes.
Yes, it's been significantly higher.
Okay. Well, the goal is to get it to 5.
Yes. Yes.
How high was it?
It looks like 7.
It was up there.
That was a combined, we could go back and trace the history of that. Okay? That was a
Somebody's on
combined
Serena.
number. But I'm sure she's correct. All right, now look, on page 258 of the budget, there is a new item called undesignated fund balance. Is that what the manager set aside for the council to designate during the course of our budget discussions?
Yes, sir.
If you want to deal with the teachers' raises, for instance.
Right, the only thing that we would suggest with that is that it would be for something that's one-time in nature, because this is one-time funding. And even if, in a perfect world, you balance the budget, when it's all said and done, you have this left over. And if you wanted to put it in reserves, you could put it into reserves. If you wanted to send it over to schools, you could
We
send it
already
over to
have more
schools.
things, we've already, the list that I listened to has money to spend on it. And if you said it, that's cash at the end of wouldn't that be a recurring number in your budget?
So we balanced the budget at 812 million, excuse me. And when we started the FY16, because we did the 2-year lens, we assumed that we wouldn't have this, and we still had the $9 million gap.
Okay. I appreciate your financial stewardship. I mean, I really do, Marcus. This is as good a budget as, we've ever had around here. But in order to make all your marks, you're pressing down on our ability to actually move, to do things. I mean, which is, so,
Ask a question.
let's see. Yeah, let me,
No, you finished, you're
No,
still doing
I'm
yours.
done. That's-
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
okay, that's good enough. Go ahead, Paul. That's all right.
Yeah, my question, I think right now, fund balance is at about 5%,
Just over.
right? And ideally, where would you like to see it? I mean, where you could just really sleep at night?
Sure.
Don't
That'd
ask
be great to
Don't
see.
worry, he's leaving.
Last week, it was finding Sabrina who was waking him up.
Okay, Councilman Reddick, that's an excellent question. Right now, so let's deal with the rating agencies. When we got the upgrade, they said that your 5% reserve is low for a AA rated city.
Right.
But why they were fine with that is that, believe it or not, we have the 3rd highest funded retirement system in the state.
Mhm.
And
What
so
percentage is that?
we're, as of June 30, about 82%. And it's interesting, we looked at who's higher funded than us. So let's start with
This last
BRS.
June 30th. And
Last June,
and
yes,
you
sir.
think it's probably improved since.
Yes, definitely. So VRS is at about 65%. So the city of Norfolk, as of June 30th, is at about 83%. The only 2 localities that are better funded than us are Falls Church, which is in this thing of fiscal stress, 134 being the lowest fiscal stress in the state and 1 being the highest fiscal stress. They are 134. And the only other locality that's better than us funded is Arlington, which is at 131. So, Councilman Reddick, the 5% is, and I think the mayor said it before, is that there's a cost to be in AAA. So no one's saying that let's jump to be AAA tomorrow. But in AA, one of the reasons why we're okay is while the 5% is low, we have a solid retirement fund, and that helps offset that a little bit. Do you have a bunch of AA rated cities like us that have 10%?
10%?
Yes.
Oh, you mean reserve?
10%, yes.
Yeah. So, if we had 5%, then just suppose you could inch that up a little bit. Would we save money if we went out to do business in the market, if our fund balance were higher? Maybe I'm not phrasing it right. Or would the rating agencies feel more comfortable with us, and maybe the chance of our rating slipping be less?
Yes, sir. The rating agencies back in September, thank you, back in September, they basically said, and the mayor alluded to this earlier, they look at the 5%, they look at the economic downturn, leveling
We have a
reserve.
series of reserves which
Right.
feed,
That's
which take that
pretty
above
good.
5%. So
Exactly.
when
So,
you sweep it all together, how much are your reserves?
right, so you get the
What-
the 42 plus the 3 plus the 3.
Right,
So- So altogether, that helps us also. So the better our reserves, the better our ratings, the cheaper it is to borrow money, and the
Right.
better it is to do business in the city. Yes, sir.
And I'm chuckling because some people want to spend every nickel, okay? And so, if the undesignated fund balance, if you had hid that as opposed to making it available, then we'd have it. If it's undesignated, I'm just saying, maybe, sometimes you just can't let some people know everything you have,
Paul Frank.
You gotta hide it. I'm not talking about Paul Freeman.
I know where he hides it.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
He's been doing this 30 years.
Yeah. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I know where he.
But
Anyway, I wasn't talking about him anyway.
But to that question, a AA plus rating is a AA plus rating. Do they, when you go to the market, they don't start analyzing down, don't they just take, is that,
They analyze everything.
so they go AA plus and then they start there? I mean, once you get the rating and you go sell your paper,
The,
do they look at AA, you got a good AA plus or you got not so good a AA plus?
they basically look at the rating and then they look at your outlook. Do you have a negative outlook? It's a stable outlook or a positive outlook. And when you get to negative outlook, that's a warning sign that you could be headed for a downgrade.
So
So
they
that-
dig in like Paul's talking about to your.
They do. If you start off with your fund balance, and let's say we're at 42 million, even though you need to be at 40, if some way you're at 41, they're gonna ask, why did you dip into your fund balance? If you have a reserve,
Even though you keep the
Yes,
AA
sir.
plus rating?
yes, sir.
I'm with you, that's-
Yeah, so it might be wise to look at saying, okay, if we had 5%, what would it cost us if we went up maybe a half or 3/4? Just to kind of inch our way up. And it doesn't, that's just my thought. So that later on, at least when the rating agencies look at us, they say, well, heck, these guys are, trying to do their best to cover their backs. So.
I agree with that, but I'm thinking that this year might not be the year to do it.
Okay.
I think next year, because our real estate assessments should probably grow next year. In fact, I think it was too conservative this year. And also some of the projects that we've put a lot of money into, hopefully will be online collecting revenue. But you guys squeezed a lot of blood out of a turnip in this budget, because I know you called me and trying to just find like $100,000 on something, so
Sweep the beach.
you'd say sweep the beach. So I'm wondering if next year would be because you projected next year maybe to be slightly higher income. I know there's some other issues with the structurally balanced budget, but maybe the forecast is better for us in the long run with revenue next year.
17, yes.
Yes.
Are you going around again?
Andy, is there anything else? Paul, you got something else?
Yeah. I wonder if you just really found out what closeout funds might be available. Let's say if there were some closeout funds for Crossroads or some closeout funds for Coleman Place. If we had some public works closeout funds, if we just put all of that money in a big pot, what will we come up with? And also, in a budget that we're projecting, how much of that is municipal waste? You can't say, how much it is, but there has to be municipal waste. There's obviously some things that we could do better, you know, and in terms of efficiency. And I'm just wondering, and while you might not be able to identify it now, if you went into this next year trying to get as much efficiency, you know, as you can from each department and each employee, you know, who's to say what we might not come up with, you know, next year? And that, and somehow reward our employees for efficiency. You know, I mean, sometimes I guarantee you that we have some employees that can be so annoyed that they are costing us money. I guarantee you there's some people out there that are costing us money because they are annoyed. And I think it's just certain things that we need to do. Number one, we need to make this, while we can't give our employees all the money that we want, that we believe that we should give them, but we should just make this a nice place, a nice environment to work in. Our police officers, I understand we're losing quite a few of them after they get to a certain point. And after we train them and get them, you know, where they are, to either go to the state police or to another department. And, you know, I'm just wondering what we can do to prevent all of that. And sometimes you can't do it with monies and you can't do it with this one budget. But if we start accumulating money and find out how we're saving money as far as waste is concerned and close out funds, we might be able to put a pot of money together to keep employees. We might be, I don't know how many school teachers we lose to other municipalities, but you know, we might be able to do something to keep from losing employees after we train them. And I don't know how you quantify that, but you know, somehow we need to look at some things.
Mark, I don't have anything. Mr. Green, are you good?
I'm good.
Tommy?
Yes, I brought this up before, I'm gonna bring it up again about the boat tax. When the tax rate got dropped years ago for regular real estate tax, the boat tax was increased, and we saw a mass exodus of boats going to Virginia Beach and Hampton because Virginia Beach only charges a penny per 100 and Hampton's not charging anything. The marinas in our city are down, most of them are down to 65%. Some of it was also because of economic downturn and people getting rid of their boats. But if you talk to the marina owners, they will tell you that a lot have left to go to places just because of our tax, that it kind of scared them away. I know it doesn't sound like a big deal, but from the numbers that I received, we collect about $290,000 a year in boat tax. There's a commercial boat tax, which is our business boat tax was $1.50 per 100, and then the pleasure boats are 50 cents per 100. And I have been trying to get this to be changed to just a sticker fee of $25. We could also look at doing maybe a $50 sticker fee if it's a bigger boat, charge more. But the idea behind it is we'll still end up collecting at $25. I was able to receive from the Commissioner of the Revenue that we have about 4,663 pleasure boats in Norfolk. That if we still charge a sticker fee, we would generate $116,000 from that sticker fee, and then the $290. But the idea behind this is that if the boats come back into Norfolk, that they're spending money on other things such as the dock fees. I'm not a boat, I don't own a boat, so I'm the wrong person to ask about this, but I care about it because a lot of the marinas are in Ocean View and they're complaining about this. And also fuel, other things that we collect, services if they come and use the restaurant. And I've heard too that just the way that the assessment goes, it's pretty cumbersome. I know the Commissioner of Revenue has a plan to help address some of the ways that we assess boats, but you know, everybody knows the January time, and they take their boats out and park them wherever they're parked, and then they get assessed. And so we lose a lot of boats in January, but then they end up coming back. So I'm just wondering when we can address this issue, because when you have 65% and a lot of down in Ocean View and the one down here, we have marinas that need to make money, and it's a business for us. And a lot of the boaters would prefer leaving from the Pretty Lake area as opposed to going from Lynn Haven. It saves them money when they're trying to access the bay on that side, and we need to find a way to make this work. And I don't know if it's something that we could just slowly phase in or phase out, I should say, over the next couple of years, where it only cost us $25,000, but then monitor and see if we generate additional revenue in those areas, because now the boats are coming back and we're getting some of the other services with it.
Mark, one final comment. I guess everybody knows our attempt to, improve the port service fee, the so-called payment in lieu of taxes, didn't work this year again for the 20th year in a row, I guess, but we'll keep trying, maybe next year. But I thought of this when Tommy mentioned the commissioner. There is, I don't know this, but to be a fact, but I think there is some private activity that occurs on the port. And if private activity occurs on the port, then I think that's a taxable event, even though it occurs on a state property. And it would be good to know from the commissioner how we can find that out, to find out if there are people doing business on the port who should be paying taxes here, even if the port is exempt. Okay, I don't know how you configure that, but it would be nice to look into that. Okay. Great. Okay, that's all I've got. Okay, thank you.
That's good.